July 5th, 2025 at 4:18 a.m. The legendary moment. Suddenly on the dark sea, a strange light is churning. Then the earth trembled slightly. Japan. The vast sea between Taiwan and the Philippines. In the silence, as if a behemoth had awakened. After a strange ebb of tide, sea level suddenly rises. A huge wall of water unimaginable to the naked eye. Straight to the sky. The tsunami pounced all around with the potential to destroy the sky and the earth. It is rumored that this huge wave will be larger than in 2011. The tsunami caused by the Great East Japan earthquake, 3 times as much. Unstoppable, sweeping across the coastlines of neighboring countries. And here's what's even more incredible. Strong crust. Changes uplift what was originally a vast sea. Hong Kong, Taiwan, and the Philippines. It seems to be closely connected by the new earth. It's like the end of the world. Chilling. This sounds like a movie plot super cataclysm. In fact, it originated from a true prophecy dream. And the prophet of this dream, it is the cartoonist whose name is the Number of Dragons. He wrote in a comic many years ago. I hand-painted this harmful scene. Now the date is approaching. Countless people can't help but ask. The tidal wave of prophecy. Will it really happen? There are indications that scientists may already be near the predicted location. Found the possible culprit. A building that is accumulating energy. Giant submarine volcano. It's true. Or coincidence? Douchuan. Let's unravel this suspense-filled story together. Go back in time to the end of the last century. Ryo Nagasaki is a Japanese cartoonist. Between 1994 and 1998. Serialized a series in a horror comic magazine. Fantastic short story. These works were later compiled into a book. It's called The Future I See. Different from ordinary comics, the content of this book, from the author himself, predictive dreams that have recurred over the years. Number of Dragons. Since childhood, he has claimed to be able to dream, see the future, the death of a star, major natural disaster, human crisis. He is between dream and reality, recorded 15 bizarre dreams like a shuttle. Draw them into comic stories. It wasn't a big deal at the time. The Number of Dragons was also closed in 1999 due to physical and mental exhaustion. Retreated from the altar of man, but many years later, a catastrophe that shocked the world. Let this out-of-print comic suddenly skyrocket. Fame. March 11th, 2011. A magnitude 9 earthquake strikes northeast Japan. Trigger a devastating tsunami, cause tens of thousands of casualties. Global shock. In hindsight, people found out. On the cover of the Future comics I saw, how many are clearly drawn. Big, creepy characters. The Catastrophe of March 2011. This comic was published in 1999. Seems miraculous. The timing of the Great East Japan earthquake was predicted. As soon as the news comes out, it went viral immediately. The Japanese people are talking a lot about it. This little book in the bookstore is long out of print. Fried to sky-high prices. Wrong quantity went from reclusive former cartoonist overnight. Become the legendary prophet who can dream of the future. Except for the catastrophe of 2011. In his past dreams, there was also the death of Princess Diana and the eruption of Mount Fuji. Some dreams have been confirmed, some have not yet happened. These kinds of coincidences shock people. I can't help but wonder, does he really have the ability to predict the future, or is it purely accidental? In the face of overwhelming attention, the Number of Dragons itself was very wrong at first. He actually stayed away from the internet all year round. I didn't know I was popular because the prophecy came true, until relatives around him told him the news, and he realized the power of this old cartoon. Someone pretended to be him and spread prophecies on the internet. Make the situation even more confusing. Many people began to ask, what is the next prophecy about the cataclysm in dreams? The Number of Dragons realizes, I may have a responsibility to give the public an explanation. Therefore, he rearranged his undisclosed dreams over the years. Decided to republish the manga in full. Make the latest Jade dream public to the world. July 2021, The Number of Dragons finally arrived at the invitation of the publisher's editor. The full version of The Future I See. Write a follow-up and a new chapter. In this new version, he revealed a disturbing omen. The real catastrophe will happen in July 2025. The number of trees will be on the morning of July 5th, 2021. I had an unusually clear dream again. This dream echoes a dream from his early years. But the picture is more specific and harmful. He's in the full comic. Detailed description of this future disaster. In his dream, he looked down at the earth. The perspective is as if the soul is separated from the body, looking at the earth from a bird in the sky. I saw the Pacific Ocean south of the Japanese archipelago. The water started to rise for no reason. Large areas of sea boil. It's like some terrible force is brewing. All of a sudden, the center of the vast sea between Japan and the Philippines, massive amounts of water and matter erupted upwards. It was as if something huge had exploded from the bottom of the sea. Then came a tsunami of a magnitude the world had never seen before. Focusing on the flashpoint, spread around Japan, Taiwan, southeast coast of China, Philippines, and even further Pacific Rim countries. They all ushered in the attack of monstrous waves in an instant. The number of dragons in the dream is shocked to see. The height of the tsunami, much larger than the scale of the Japan earthquake in the winter of 2011. That tsunami has left a lasting impression. And this time, the wave diameter is 3 times higher than that of the year. He also witnessed incredible changes in the Earth's crust. Under the impact of huge waves, the plates seemed to be squeezed and displaced. The land that was originally separated by the strait was connected by uplifts. Starting from Hong Kong and Guangdong, all the way through the South China Sea, the island of Taiwan is pushed to the south. It forms a landmass with the Philippine Islands. The originally blue ocean suddenly dried up and became land. Map unknown, rewrite. Like the entire Eastern Asian landform, were reinvented overnight. The end of the dream, Banyan Shuliang heard a voice telling him, after the disaster, we'll usher in a brighter future, and there seemed to be a message of hope in those words. But after waking up from the dream, more of a chilling fish trail. This hurtful dream, it is the number of dragons in the full version of the manga. Predictive dreams revealed to the world. He believes that if dreams come true, then the date is around July 5th, 2025. And he personally believes the reason why the dream of desire appears, a warning to humanity. That's the number of warnings. In the epilogue of the book, it is written that the dream of Jade is a sutra because it can be avoided. That's why we saw him. In other words, he expected people to take this dream seriously, prepare for disasters in advance, may minimize damage. As soon as news of the predicted super tsunami came out, instantly caused an uproar. Some people believe they started making an evacuation plan and some people took it. Think it's just coincidence? However, as time goes by, more disturbing news. Discoveries in the scientific community. It seems that to some extent, confirmed the possibility in the dream of the number of dragons. Could it be the source of a great disaster hidden in the deep sea? It really exists. While people are talking about fables, a new discovery in the field of geology, drawing widespread attention in 2019, a team of marine geophysicists in the Philippines, studying the seabed topography east of the Philippine Islands. I stumbled upon a huge ring-shaped structure. This toroidal structure, located on the Philippine sea plate, an underwater elevation in the West Park. The diameter is difficult to achieve, 150 kilometers of confidence at first. Scientists are fascinated by this. However, the scale of the big thing is shocking. What is the concept of 150 kilometers? Equivalent to 2/3 of the width of Taiwan Island. More famous than Yellowstone National Park in the United States. Many times bigger. Yellowstone caldera is only about 60 kilometers in diameter. After further seafloor geological mapping and core sampling analysis, experts confirm this is a huge caldera left over from prehistory. That's a depression that collapses after a volcanic eruption. They named it the Apolaki crater. Taken from Filipino mythology, the name of the sun and the god of war, it means great wonder. This name, it aptly describes his large and small vision. The size of Apolaki crater, over 17,000 square kilometers, upright. Removed what is currently known, the crown of the world's largest volcano. What is very striking is that the location of the Apolaki crater, exactly in the sea predicted by the number of dragons, near the whistling explosion point. From the map, Apolaki, located in the waters east of the Philippine island of Luzon, belonging to is called part of the submarine plateau of the Bingham Rise. If you look down on the Earth from space, this is right on the Japanese archipelago, with the Philippines in the vast Pacific region between the islands. The number of dragons seen in a dream, the sea surface between Japan and the Philippines suddenly erupted, is not correct with the location of the Abraj crater. Does it fit secretly? For a time, many people will Apolaki linked to comic book prophecy. It is speculated that it may be this lurking undersea supervolcano will awaken in 2025, trigger a tsunami. There are even rumors that scientists have discovered the crust near Apolaki, abnormally elevated pressure. It is suspected that he is brewing a new round of eruptions. This made the original only doomsday visions that exist in comics. Suddenly there is a shadow of reality. So, what is the origin of Apolaki volcano? According to scientific calculations, the Bingham Rise was around 47 million to 26 million years ago. A large area formed by intense volcanic activity, submarine heights, and Apolaki caldera. It was at that time that one of the earth-shattering super-eruptions, the scars left behind, the power of that prehistoric eruption. It must have left a profound impact on the Earth back then. perhaps erupting enough volcanic material to change the climate. Quality darkens the entire Pacific Ocean. However, over the next tens of millions of years, Apollo and the volcano have gone into a long age. Since the rise of human civilization, no activity was observed. This is an ancient, extinct volcano. It has no place in the modern geological record. Until recently, through high-tech ocean exploration, people are only realizing for the first time the person under their feet, the existence of deep-sea behemoths, judging by common sense. Since Abraham was in geological time, turned off, then the possibility of another eruption now, very little. However, the secret of nature lies in its unfathomable dormancy. Volcanoes are not without precedent. Some long-dormant volcanoes. It may also be under changes in crustal pressure, rejuvenate. Think about Mount Vesuvius in Italy. Suddenly erupted after centuries of long-term sleep. Destroy Pompeii, or maybe the Toba supervolcano in Indonesia, hundreds of thousands of years apart, suddenly drag the Earth into the cold winter. For the Earth, millions of years of silence may be just a blink of an eye. Once the conditions are ripe, the behemoth awakens in an instant. Scientists are currently studying Apolaki. It is impossible to predict at the beginning that he will never be active in the future. Some geologists are cautious. Although Abraki, there is a high probability that it will not erupt in the short term, but we have no idea about the state of the magma chamber inside him. Almost nothing, if there is still a hot face in the body. And plate movement causes new cracks. So this supervolcano, there is indeed the possibility of a full awakening. Just imagine if Apolaki really broke out in modern times. How powerful will it be? Refer to the scale of past eruptions of Yellowstone volcano. Once released, thousands of cubic kilometers of volcanic material, covering half of North America, Apolaki is several times the size of Yellowstone. The potential energy is even more immeasurable. Violent underwater volcanic eruption will pour countless amounts of magma and gas into the sea. Violent explosions could even displace seawater, push the whole away, tear a huge gap in the sea. The moment the sea pours back to catch, it can form a highly alarming circular tsunami, spread in all directions. This is similar to the sudden eruption of the sea seen in the Dream of the Number of Dragons. It's almost the same. And here's what's even more disturbing. Large eruptions can also produce pyroclastic tumors and underwater landslides, causing dramatic changes in the topography of the seabed. If a large area of the ocean floor collapses or rises, it is indeed possible to turn part of the former sea into land. As described in the Dream, between Hong Kong and the Philippines, exaggerated picture of ground connection. Of course, this is an extreme deduction. But it's not scientifically impossible. History. Volcanoes erupt and create islands all the time. Tsunamis and crust caused by volcanoes. You hear about sports. If one of the largest volcanic craters on Earth really wake up, the consequences are likely to outweigh the personal experience of modern humans. And you talk about volcanoes making land suddenly. There is a famous Ghost Island incident worth mentioning. August 2012. A plane in New Zealand. When flying over the northern seas, the captain's surprising discovery, in the originally endless blue ocean below, a large black and gray land appeared. This island is huge. The visual length is nearly 200 kilometers, almost the territory of a medium-sized Pacific country in the United States. And here's what's even more incredible. Just a few days later, satellite photos show this mysterious island has actually moved its location. How can an island just leave? Scientists had difficulty explaining the bizarre scene at first. For a moment, there were rumors of paranormal activity. They call it Ghost Island. Until the research team intervened. The mystery is solved. It turns out that the so-called islands are not land at all. It's a mass of floating pumice. These pumice stones, a violent volcanic eruption originating from the ocean floor, when an underwater volcano violently spews lava, mixed volcanic gases, make lava, quickly condenses into plaque-filled blue stones. Clearer than water, large sheets of pumice can be like wooden valves, floating on the sea. In 2012, it was located in the northeast of New Zealand. Havel underwater volcano erupts in the sea, produced an army of pumice stones rare in history. It covers hundreds of square kilometers. At first, they are packed tightly. It looks like an entire island. It gradually breaks apart as the current drifts. This incident, it's an underwater volcano. The power to instantly change the face of the ocean, appear in a short time. A terrestrial fantasy that pops up out of thin air and disappears. Now this is normal volcanic activity, yet so magnificent. What if it was a supervolcano? I'm afraid it's not just Pumice Island that has emerged, but really new islands. Or the uplift of the whole roadblock and the number of silent dragons, the land suddenly connected in my dream. Maybe it's a similar phenomenon, a scaled-up version under extreme conditions. From the example of Ghost Island, how unexpected is the power of nature. human intuition, often unable to keep up with the fickleness of the earth. This also reminds us that, for the crisis lurking at the depths of the sea, don't take it lightly. Even if the prophecy turns out to be a false alarm, enhancing monitoring and understanding of Earth's activities is also extremely necessary. After all, under the bottomless ocean, perhaps there are hidden, undiscovered giants, sleeping. Except for the number of volcanosaurs, the tsunami mentioned in the prophecy, it may also come from a strong earthquake. After all, the largest tsunamis in history usually started by major underwater earthquakes. Take a closer look at Japan, the geological environment of Taiwan and the Philippines. This area is located in the famous on the Pacific Rim seismic belt, Plate Junction Gap, breeding countless hidden dangers of strong earthquakes. One of them, a hidden fault zone. South China Sea Trough in southern Japan. South China Sea Trough. It's the Philippine Sea Plate, boundary zone of subduction of the Eurasian Plate, from the vicinity of the Japanese line all the way to the southern waters of Kyushu. This trench in the ocean floor used to be every 100 to 200 years or so. A super earthquake of magnitude 8 or higher will occur. The famous 1707 Baoyong earthquake in history. The 1946 Showa-Nankai earthquake took place here. The resulting tsunami devastated the Pacific coast of Japan, causing heavy casualties. The last South China Sea Trough earthquake, it was over 70 years ago. Scientists calculate the probability of the next matrix approaching is climbing. According to the Japanese government's assessment in recent years, in the coming decades, South China Sea Trough, the probability of a matrix magnitude 9 earthquake occurring up to 70% to 80%. In other words, from now on, could detonate at any time. A devastating earthquake. The Japanese government even made a worst-case scenario deduction. If the entire section of the South China Sea Trough breaks, it can generate tsunamis up to 30 meters high. Nearly 300,000 people were killed. This will be modern Japan. Experience the worst disaster. This dire estimate is in 2022. 2023 successive construction Japanese media reports. Cause public panic. Someone who cares about it. A pair of photos with the comic book prophecy of the number of dragons. I found that the time points vaguely coincided. 2025 is just a few years into the future. If this major earthquake that scientists have warned of really happen, could it be in the prophecy? One of the sources of the devastating tsunami, more coincidentally, South China Sea, Kauwei, south of Japan. It is in line with the geographical location indicated by the Dream of You. If the Nankai Trough earthquake occurs, trigger a giant tsunami. Coupled with submarine volcanic power, two-phase superposition, the consequences are really unimaginable. Of course, this is already an extreme script. But the prophecy itself portrays an extreme situation. We can't rule anything out. The line of sight moves further south from Japan. Another key seismic hazard has surfaced. Located between the Philippines and Taiwan, Manila Trench. This trench, the South China Sea Plate, collides with the Philippine Sea Plate. Deep trench ridges formed by subduction, reclining in the depths of the South China Sea on the west side of Luzon Island. Scientists point out that Manila Trench, most likely a long-term, the seismic belt of energy storage satellite TV, hundreds of years, no major fault release occurred. Geological records and simulations reveal here are the conditions for a magnitude 9 super earthquake. Once the fault breaks, the seabed of the South China Sea basin will shake violently, set off seawater to form a regional tsunami. Research shows that if an earthquake of magnitude 9.0 or higher occurs in the Manila Trench, huge waves could form within 10 minutes. Towards the southern and southwestern coasts of Taiwan, the water strength is as high as more than 10 meters. Not only is Taiwan dangerous, the tsunami will also sweep through other parts of the South China Sea, including the southeast coast of the Chinese mainland, Hong Kong, Macau, Vietnam, and even as far away as the Nanyang Islands. Since the last century, Taiwan and the Philippines, there was no devastating tsunami, but that by no means it won't happen. In fact, Taiwan's meteorological agency has repeatedly emphasized that just because it doesn't happen often doesn't mean it won't happen. 2022, Taiwan's Central Meteorological Bureau named the Manila Trench Ryukyu Trench. It is the tsunami that poses the greatest threat to Taiwan. Call for proactive measures. Imagine the number of dragons mentioned in a dream. The land connection between Hong Kong and the Philippines, officially passing through the South China Sea. And that's where the Manila Trench is. If this long-standing fault, it will erupt around 2025. The tsunami he caused. Does it match what you see in the comics? And here's the interesting thing. On Chinese online forums, someone predicted the number of dragons, combined with seismic risk analysis of Manila Trench. It is believed that prophecy is not without place. It's based on science. After all, the Philippine Sea Plate is like a rhombus puzzle. All around are potential catastrophe stitches. A crack affects the whole situation. To sum up, the South China Sea Trough in Japan and the Manila Trench in the Philippines, north and south, like two arrows of Damocles hanging high, and the horizontal one in the middle, it's the Philippine Sea Plate itself. inside Apolaki Volcano. The scene depicted in the dream of the number of dragons. To some extent, it can correspond to the South China Sea Trough superseismologist, Manila Trench superseismologist, the compound disaster of underwater supervolcanic eruptions. If there were such a terrifying chain of events, the destructive power is unimaginable. It could indeed cause the Earth to tear like in the dream. The effect of Shanghai subversion. Of course, this is the most pessimistic reasoning. Maybe reality won't be so cruel. But various scientific studies and indications suggest that this part of the Pacific Rim, in the coming years, we are indeed in a high-risk period of geological activity. We have to admit, the time and place indicated by the number of dragons, not entirely based on the wind. In a weird coincidence. Faint, revealing a chilling real possibility. The coming tsunami of dragon numbers. Prophecy is not a lonely battle. All over the world, in recent years there have been many amazing predictions about 2025. Let this year be filled with mystery. One of the most talked about is known as the Indian prodigy, Anand, the teenage prophet. This is a stargazing genius from India. Young, but he became famous for making accurate predictions. Anand has recently appeared in public lectures and films. Mentioned many times, he has a very ominous premonition about the first half of 2025. According to Anand, Law 2025 early to end of year. Affected by specific astrology, 3 things are going to happen. Number 1, the possibility of a regional armed conflict, especially around the South China Sea. Tensions in various countries. There is a risk of misfire. Second, a severe natural disaster occurs. Third, a horrific event similar to genocide has occurred. Among them, for the second point of natural disasters, Anand made it clear that there will be large underwater earthquakes in the South China Sea and cause a tsunami. The time will probably fall from the end of 2024 to the first half of 2025. He explained, during this period, Saturn meets the northern suburbs of the moon, foreshadows areas associated with water. There will be mutations, and first and foremost is the South China Sea. That's the seas around East Asia. His warning, in the manga with the number of dragons, the location and time of the tsunami. Almost coincidentally, 2 prophets from different cultural backgrounds. They both point to the same disaster. This made netizens exclaim mysteriously. Some people sigh, is it really an arrangement? More people put the number of dragons, juxtaposed with the prophecy of the Indian prodigy, called 2025 the new year. Anyway, the occurrence of Anand, there is no doubt that the cloud is densely packed with prophetic events, another handful of firewood. Except for Indian prodigies, the legendary prophet of Eastern Europe, the blind dragon Po. It was discussed. The blind Bulgarian elderly man. It is said that many claims about the future are left behind. His followers claim he successfully met 9/11 Kongxi. Historical events such as the collapse of the Soviet Union. Legend has it that the dragon Po has encountered an accident. The end of the world will begin in 2025. And warned, there were 2 countries in Europe that were in conflict. The population of Europe was greatly reduced. This seems to imply 2025. There will be some kind of devastating global crisis. Some people will start the end of the dragon Po, interpreted as the beginning of a global cataclysm. Perhaps a devastating war. It could also be a major natural disaster, even major changes in the Earth's environment. According to the pessimistic script, the tsunami predicted by the number of dragons. Maybe it's the first knock on the door of the apocalypse. Of course, many of Luang Pu's prophecies are unknown. Authenticity cannot be checked, but still often quoted by occult lovers, especially when it comes to dragons. The number of cases that seem to come true, more imaginative. Someone said half-jokingly, Japanese cartoonists predict natural disasters. India has child prodigies. There are dragons in Europe who say the end of the day are the prophets of the world. This year is going bad by 2025. Sounds absurd. Makes the whole thing even more confusing. Even one of the most famous prophets in history, the 16th century French astrologer Nostradamus, in his famous book of prophecies, acts, leaving behind verses believed to point to 2025. According to some scholars who have studied the Nostrum prophecy, he calculated by looking at the stars. In 2025, war will break out in Europe, into anarchy. The plague will return. Even an empire is destroyed. This coincides with the prophecy of the blind dragon woman. Both mentioned European wars and demographic disasters. At the same time, there are analysts who say Nostradamus predicts around 2024. There will be 2 natural disasters. One was the earthquake and tsunami off the coast of Japan. Coincidentally, in 2023, a strong earthquake occurred in Ishikawa Prefecture, Japan, and caused coastal waves. Let the enthusiasts exclaim that the prophecy has come true. Although the scale is far from the doomsday level in the comics, although mainstream historians maintain that Nostradamus verses are highly cryptic, can be far-fetched to explain various events. But this does not prevent the people from compare it to the number of dragons. One time, 2025 human catastrophe. It seems to have become international chorus across time and space. All kinds of prophecies come. Even on Chinese community forums and Jihu. Friends spontaneously sorted out the 2025 prophecy power post. Take all the prophetic clues they have gathered. Connect. From comic child prodigy, Luang Pu Noon, to the Bible code. A big collision. In these posts, someone analyzed the operation of the stars seriously. And plate tectonics. Some people go crazy and weave conspiracy theories. For example, claiming that a mysterious organization has long known about secrets. There's human load shearing going on, etc. Absurdity and reality are intertwined. Rumor and truth are indistinguishable. So much has been said. Although most reasonable people, to these sensational prophecies, take a reservation, but there's no denying it. When seemingly related clues come together, even if it's you and me who are calm, there is inevitably a trace of unease in my heart. What if this is all true? When the prophecy is all over the place, the scientific community and the rational experts couldn't sit still. They came out and poured cold water. We also provide professional analysis and interpretation. Earthquake experts from Japan and Taiwan. The prophecy of the number of dragons. A geological examination was conducted. Some experts point out that the scale of crustal changes described in the bright dream of the banyan tree, far beyond a single event in modern scientific understanding. The extent possible to get from Hong Kong to Taiwan, land uplift bordering the Philippines. It is equivalent to the simultaneous and violent uplift of the entire South China Sea basin. Required energy. I am afraid it is equivalent to a major earthquake of magnitude 10 or more. However, the largest earthquake in the history of human observation. It's only level 9.5. 1960, intelligence earthquake. A magnitude 10 earthquake is almost impossible to generate in reality. At least in terms of the stress accumulation in the existing plates. Impossible means the scene in the prophetic dream, more like a superposition of multiple extreme disasters. Even superimposed results, rather than a single source. However, the prophecy doesn't tell us whether the cause is likely to be true. What about the situation of multi-disaster linkage? Scientifically, the probability of this is extremely low, but not zero. For example, a major earthquake could trigger a near fault, chain rupture, and even cause dormant volcanoes to erupt. It's a compound disaster. History. There are records of major earthquakes causing volcanic eruptions. For example, in 1707, after the Boyong earthquake, triggered the eruption of Mount Fuji during Boyongnian. So in theory, the picture of destroying the sky and the earth in the dream of the number of dragons. Not absolutely impossible. But it takes too many rare conditions to make it happen. Simultaneously satisfying. The odds are extremely slim. Other scholars, from a psychological and statistical perspective, this kind of prophecy phenomenon is analyzed. Some Japanese commentators cite survivorship bias and attribution after the fact to explain the number of dragons comics became popular. People tend to focus on those, a prophecy that coincides with reality, and ignore a lot of unfulfilled, or an ambiguous part. The comic of the number of dragons contains more than 10 dreams. It really matches the number, only in the case of the 2011 earthquake. But because this example is so sensational, people automatically ignore other dreams that don't happen. Plus, the cover of the comic says, the words in March 2011 were too striking. So much so that people are willing to believe in his dreams, all full of mysterious power. In addition, prophetic narratives are often called vague. It's easy for people to take their seats after the fact once a similar event occurs. Just go back and apply the words of prophecy. Even if it is far-fetched, it feels amazing. And for those parts that don't happen, or the language is unknown, selective forgetting. And that leads to the illusion that the prophets are always right. Take the number of dragons. The eruption of Mount Fuji mentioned in his original comic. Scenarios such as earth cracks have not been realized yet, but few people mention it. In 11 years, the prophecy has been infinitely magnified. Let him be a prophet. Geologists in Taiwan also said that dragon number dream. The Philippines also mentioned details such as Taiwan students. In fact, it is inconsistent with the knowledge of earth science. Kyushu on the eastern side of the Philippine sea plate. Young rocks along Palau Ridge. High buoyancy. There are fewer volcanoes. The west side is near the South China Sea Trough. Rocks are older. More important, the whole Taiwan student really needs astronomical amounts of energy. Even with a supervolcano, go into battle with a super earthquake. It may not be able to achieve the exaggerated effect in comics. The expert's conclusion is mostly that respect natural science probability. There is no need to panic too much about online predictions. After all, the majestic prophecy, uninterrupted in history. But the real doomsday scenario never materialized. Humans are always in danger. Over one after another, doomsday ladder. Many so-called prophets, actually more like lucky forecasters, or the beneficiary of coincidence. Many predictions for this year. Believe it or not. Rationally speaking, what we should focus on is real warning. Information. For example, risk assessments issued by governments and scientific institutions. Prepare for disaster prevention and mitigation, rather than being led by the nose by online rumors. However, having said that, People's fear of the unknown and the yearning for mystery never stops. In some civil discussions, there are also voices that would rather believe it. Can't be trusted. This is not a complete superstition of prophecy. It's about being prepared. Prophecy is just a prophecy after all, but he did point to real risks to worry about. Instead of mocking prophecy, it is better to take the opportunity to improve emergency measures. If the dream of the number of dragons does not come true in the end, it can be regarded as a thrilling conversation. But if something like this were to happen, those who are prepared, it's better to live than the defenseless. In this sense, prophecy may have had a positive effect. Plan ahead. Take precautions before they happen. The number of dragons has also been emphasized many times. His goal in publicizing his jade dream was by no means grandstanding. They want attention. Therefore, possible future damage can be mitigated. He believes that the reason why the jade dream allows him to see just means disasters can be avoided or mitigated. If people take early action, maybe the tragedy in the dream will never end. All become reality. At this point, no matter the reality of the dream, we can't take it lightly. As the calendar turns page by page, July 5th, 2025 is getting closer and closer. From a cartoonist's bizarre dream, to the giant volcano discovered by science, to the mysterious hints of many prophets, this possible super cataclysm, it was all over the media and the internet. Some people stand out, plan an early escape route from the coastline. Some people suddenly fail. Think of it as an afterthought. Believe it or not, the day of prophecy is near. It became a global phenomenon. In the age of information explosion, we've seen too many doomsday prophecies, seen again and again, after the prophecy failed. Will this time be different? Most professionals, I still maintain a rational position. There is currently no conclusive scientific evidence that a specific devastating disaster will occur in 2025. Please don't panic the public. But at the same time, they also called for attention to the risk of geological hazards. Because whether there is prophecy or not, the Pacific Rim is already active. Both the government and the public should be prepared for earthquakes. Tsunami preparedness measures. That's the responsible attitude. In other words, we should face prophecy with equanimity, but don't ignore the hidden dangers that exist in reality. After all, natural disasters happen. Never depends on human will. No matter the number of dragons. Dream vision. Will it become a reality in our generation? Some basic disaster prevention knowledge. And preparedness is essential. How to escape a tsunami. How to take shelter when an earthquake warning sounds. These instead, it's a detail that really needs attention. The prophecy may not be credible, but the scientific concept of disaster prevention, but it's worth doing. Maybe we will end up like so many times in the past. Spend the first week of July 2025 safely. Val smiled as he looked back. Another false alarm. That, of course, is human nature. It's the ending we're happy to see, but before the results are revealed, it's all still shrouded in clouds. In this day of suspense, we might as well be in awe, staring at the sea and the earth. Awe the false power of nature. Seek truth and be pragmatic. For those true and false prophecies, the humanity represented by the unknown, future temptations and anxiety. Let's wait for time to give the answer. Let's hope we're not greeted by huge waves. It was a calm morning. As the number of dragons in the final season of Fable, Reign After Disaster, will usher in a brighter future. May this glorious future, you don't need to go through the baptism of disaster to come. Until that moment comes, the mystery remains unsolved. We have to be rational. Calm observation. The summer of 2025 is approaching. The truth will come out. History has its own judgment. Let's hope. And it's a rainy day. Witness this moment of suspense together.